Well, I mentioned a few days ago that the Washington Wizards are definitely a team to watch for the buyout market, and that only became more true with their latest move, signing former top 3 draft pick Marvin Bagley to a 1-year fully guaranteed contract. And why is that important? Well, because it just pushed their 15-man roster to 18 total players, aka they have to waive 3 of them or get rid of 3 of them by the end of training camp. So yes, they do have a few months to do that yet, but sooner rather than later, they will have to either waive somebody or trade a few players from their current team. Which, if you take a look at their team and who would make the most sense for them to do it, it would be their veteran players. Don't really have a long-term fit for guys like Chris Middleton, CJ McCollum, Marcus Smart, and or Richaun Holmes here, all of which are under contract with their team and until further notice, will be a part of their payroll and therefore their 15-man roster too. So with that in mind here, which of them could be or likely will be a buyout candidate, when will it happen, and if it does happen, should the Lakers have interest in them? We'll go through it, talk about which are the most likely to be waived, if a trade could happen instead, and if the Lakers should be prioritizing them if they do in fact hit the buyout market. So without further ado here, looking at the Wizards 15-man roster and if they are in fact the most likely to be waived, I definitely would rule out CJ McCollum here. If we're talking about the current forward between them, he does have by far the most trade value. Yes, he is 34 and obviously doesn't have a long-term fit on their team, but he is coming off a fairly productive season, once again averaging about 20 points per game, about 5 assists per game, remaining a very productive offensive player and both a good playmaker and off-ball scoring threat, so I think they probably will find a trade for him. Maybe not the trade they necessarily want for him and probably won't get the same value back that a team like the Pelicans got or Portland before that, but I think they will eventually find a trade for him, albeit with an expiring contract. And well, that leaves them with Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart, and Richaun Holmes here. Again, they have to get down to 15 players eventually, and those are the 3 likely candidates for them to do it with. And in my opinion, the first one to go will likely be Richaun Holmes here. Unlike Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart who have fully guaranteed contracts, Holmes is not, only being guaranteed for $250,000 this season, so they can simply waive him and eat that $250K, which won't really affect them, simply waive the remainder of his $13 million salary for this season, and move on from him. Don't have to go through a contract buyout and simply can waive him. So I guess talking about when they do that, as I do find it very likely, especially after them signing Marvin Bagley here and kind of taking that spot in their rotation. Should the Lakers have interest in Richaun Holmes here, maybe for a third center behind both DeAndre Ayton and Jackson Hayes? I mean, maybe I guess, if they would sign him for a partially guaranteed contract, I mean maybe. They would still have to waive a guy like Shake Milton or Jordan Goodwin to make room for him, or then make a 2-for-1 kind of trade to open up a roster spot, but I guess I wouldn't hate it given the current center market. Not really a whole lot left at this point, but in reality, that's not my favorite move for them to make. Definitely not a guy I'd be prioritizing, and more of a last-ditch effort if they can't find anyone better, or if they go through an injury. So definitely not very high on my priority list, even though he's a fairly athletic center that actually did play a little bit with Luka Doncic back in Dallas. Regardless though, definitely not my top pick. So once again, I would be looking for either Marcus Smart and Chris Middleton through the buyout market, which I think will eventually happen. I mean, maybe they find a trade for Marcus Smart, has a salary of roughly $21.5 million for next season, unlike Chris Middleton who has one for $33.2, so I don't think they'll find a trade for Chris Middleton. Definitely will probably have to come to a contract buyout with him, unless they simply keep him and let him become a free agent next summer, but I don't think that he'll be going anywhere via trade. Though again, it might be a possibility for Marcus Smart, and there's even been a report that the Lakers might have interest in trading for him. You know, it definitely wouldn't take much, simply the expiring contracts of Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleber, then with a second-round draft pick that maybe could be a protected second-round draft pick, and that might be enough to get Marcus Smart here. If they feel like they couldn't get him through the buyout market, maybe a team like Boston would have a reunion with him, or maybe some other contender might snatch him up instead. Maybe they feel like it's best to actually bypass that route and make a trade for him, a trade that wouldn't cost them that much, a couple of expiring contracts and a minimal trade asset like a second round draft pick. Maybe they go that route and maybe they feel it would be worth it. After all, they're definitely looking for a better point of attack defender, which I think you could argue would be Marcus Smart here, would be an upgrade compared to Gabe Vincent, would be an upgrade compared to Jordan Goodwin, or pretty much any other point of attack defender they currently have on their roster. You can make that argument. However, it really comes down to, is it worth trading 2 of their expiring contracts for him? No, they don't get much on court value from Maxi Kleber or Gabe Vincent. A little bit with Gabe Vincent, so don't completely rule him out, but it really comes down to if they'd want to make a different trade after this one, or if they're targeting a guy with a 20 to 30 million plus dollar salary. Then instead of trading Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleber, they would then have to trade Rui Hachimura, Dalton Knecht, or maybe a guy like Jared Vanderbilt or possibly Austin Reeves to get that kind of player. So that's kind of what you have to factor in here. Again, it's not a lot of trade value in regard to on-court value for Marcus Smart, what it would take to get him, but it might affect their future trades and what they'd have to give up in future trades if they make this kind of trade first. So I guess if they don't plan to make a future trade, which I would not be happy with, then I guess I wouldn't be mad at it. Wouldn't hate the idea of trading Vincent and Kleber for Marcus Smart. I think that would be an on-court upgrade for their team, would be an upgrade for a better point of attack defender and probably a better fit coming off their bench. Smart can be both a true point guard at times, which Gabe Vincent really cannot be, and be a better point of attack defender, kind of a 3-and-D option. Isn't quite good enough of a 3-point shooter to be that 3-and-D option, but overall is an upgrade over Gabe Vincent. Obviously has plenty of background playing for a contending team, but still at the end of the day here, I'd much rather get him via the buyout market. At that point, we get Marcus Smart while retaining the expiring contracts of both Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleber to then make a future trade with. And yes, we can do both here if Marcus Smart would hit the buyout market and actually pick their team to join thereafter, simply by waiving the non-guaranteed contract of Shake Milton or the partially guaranteed contract with Jordan Goodwin. Would prefer the Shake Milton route here, but yes, it could be a possibility. Definitely a few more ifs to go along with it. If you'd hit the buyout market, if he would join their team thereafter, and if they would waive Shake Milton to get him and not a different player. But it would be the ideal pathway for them and the ideal possibility for Marcus Smart. And yes, I do find it pretty likely that he does hit the buyout market. Like I said, I guess they could maybe find a trade for him. Wouldn't be able to get much back for him, so I think they probably do go the contract buyout route. Hopefully that happens sooner rather than later here. Doesn't take until the trade deadline, so the Lakers don't have to wait for it, if they are in fact trying to wait for it. Some reports say and indicate that they might be and do have him on their radar, so I think they're hoping for a contract buyout soon with him. And the signing of Marvin Bagley, along with the Wizards having 18 players on their 15-man roster, could hint that it's coming pretty soon. Either for Marcus Smart and or Chris Middleton, who we've talked about also here and I think is a for sure contract buyout candidate. Again, I don't think they'll be able to trade him. Having a $33 million salary for next season, I think a contender would be absolutely crazy to trade for him. Yes, he's still pretty productive on the court when he's actually healthy and on the court, and unfortunately for him, that's simply few and far between at this point. I mean, Marcus Smart has definitely been hurt lately, but that's even been worse for Chris Middleton. Only playing 37 games last season, 55 in the 2023-24 NBA season, and only 33 back in the 22-23 NBA season. Not having hit the 60 game mark or let alone even 55 plus game mark in nearly half a decade at this point. Again, very unfortunate as I really do like Chris Middleton. Definitely plays the game the right way, never complains and is never an outspoken player. An underrated 3-time All-Star and a guy that's very productive on the court when he's on the court again. But I don't think a team will trade for him. It will be a contract buyout, and I think his contract buyout will come before Marcus Smart. And well, for a team like the Lakers and thinking about if they should maybe sign Chris Middleton if he would hit the buyout market, I think it's an interesting conversation here. At this current moment and in the short term, no, they don't really need him, I guess. They're going after more of a true 3-and-D option and a guy that fits their timeline a bit better. But if they do in fact think they might trade Rui Hachimura, at that point I think you could make an argument for it. Simply replacing him in the rotation and kind of the skill set, mainly offensively, being able to play off the ball and is a very reliable 3-point shooter. Middleton being a near 39% career 3-point shooter on roughly 5 attempts per game, can play on the ball, off the ball, very good catch and shoot option and pretty much can do everything offensively, even create shots for teammates and kind of being a point forward at times too. And not to mention when healthy is arguably an upgrade on defense over Rui Hachimura. So kind of looking for a long-term standpoint, if they think they'll make trades and maybe multiple of them, one that would in fact include Rui Hachimura, then it might not be a terrible idea for their team, especially if they would open up multiple spots in their team, therefore allowing them to sign Chris Middleton, but not being done with simply that. Adding him, but also adding a better point of attack defender, maybe a younger 3-and-D option in the backcourt, or maybe another center, whatever it might be. I think that would be the ideal route, and I guess kind of the long-term solution here. And the long-term, I guess, why you would sign Chris Middleton, replacing a guy like Rui Hachimura, or I guess kind of helping replace him, adding more of an offensive punch off their bench, a guy with a very well-known playoff background and is a very good playoff performer, by the way. Middleton having playoff averages of 21 points per game, 6.5 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game to only 2.5 turnovers per game, shooting 44% from the field and 39% from 3 on 6.3 attempts per game. Yeah, that's an underrated playoff performer and definitely a guy that has plenty of playoff background too, even being an NBA champion. So wouldn't be entirely against it. Again, if it's the only move they'd make, I wouldn't be happy with it. I'd have interest, but only under a certain set of conditions here. That being that they're going to make future trades, and one that likely would include Rui Hachimura, or a combination of different bigger wings on their team. In that case, then yes, I would be in for Chris Middleton. But with all of that being said, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the Wizards as a potential contract buyout option? You know, targeting the players after they waive them and agree to a contract buyout with them, whether it be a guy like Richaun Holmes, Chris Middleton, or Marcus Smart. Let me know your thoughts and the level of interest that you would have in them in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I would greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.